music. It is the food of the soul and one of the most intrinsic facets of the human condition. Everybody goes through life musically in one way or another. We sing and we dance and we gesture around rhythmically and we have a good time and talk to each other musically all of the time. It is just a part of how we live. And so it is of no surprise to me that music has become the booming industry that it is today. It is crazy how much music is important to our lives, and I'm going to introduce you to one of the most musically lived people around, Ian Anderson, who plays flute in the band Jethro Tull, which had its heyday back in the 1960s and 70s and still exists today. We're going to discuss his early life, how he got into music, what instruments he started with, as well as how he ended up playing flute and what he's up to today, which is actually really interesting. So in an article actually on the official Jethro Tull website, which I corroborated with an article from allmusic.com, turns out the dude was born the 10th of August 1947 in Dunfermline, Scotland, UK, which is an interesting place to be born. Apparently he attended primary school in Edinburgh before moving to Blackpool in 1959 with his family, and that's where he hung out for the majority of his life. He followed a traditional grammar school education there, and then went to study the fine arts for a little bit before finally deciding that he was going to hang out and have a music career. Seems like a good thing to do. In an interview with the Flutist Quarterly, it was David Westcombe who conducted said interview. He explained a lot about his progression with music, how he got from guitar, which he started with, all the way to flute, which is a very strange thing to get to. How to get from a string instrument to a wind instrument? Who knows? So it turns out that he started playing guitar about the time he was 12. He started with a Spanish acoustic guitar, cute little box guitar. It was a good guitar. And around 15 or 16, apparently, he got his first electric guitar, which he would describe as cheap and nasty. Very apt description for a cheap guitar, I have to say. Then, just before Jethro Tull really became a thing, you know, right before the oncoming of the band itself with the name and everything, he trades his guitar for a flute. And why does he do this? Why? Because he wouldn't be as good as Eric Clapton. He's not wrong. Eric Clapton was an excellent guitarist. And in thinking about this, Ian apparently decided that in order to really make himself and the band stand out, he needed an instrument that no one else was really playing, because everyone and their mother was playing the guitar in a rock band. And he thought, you know what they're not playing? Flute. So he started playing flute. So the band itself started in 1963 as the Blades. Then just before 1967, he changes to flute, and in 1967 they get the name Jethro Tull. In another interview with the San Antonio Magazine, he explained that that was his one regret, was the name, because it's someone else's name. He stole the name from the inventor of the seed drill, and he didn't like it. Pretty sad, man. But whether that name was stolen from the inventor of the seed drill or not, you know, the band has since persisted. It had its height back in the 60s and 70s, and then kind of stuck around in the 80s, and it's still here today. They still perform. I was on the website. They were having a tour just before COVID hit and everything went to crap. And it was a good time. It's been 51 years, and he still even performs under the moniker, under his own name. He's produced a few solo albums. His first was Walk Into the Light, which was released in 1983, and he's had 7 more solo albums since. According to another article from the Business Vision website, he actually, strangely enough, got into salmon farming later in his existence on this world. How he got into salmon farming, I cannot tell you, but it was such an enterprise that it brought in 10 million pounds annually for a good few years and employed over 400 people. He gave that up in 2019 for his music career, and that was that. So, here we are now, and I've just discussed with you Ian Anderson's early life and his progression musically and his salmon farming career that he threw away to go back to music again. Gotta say, Ian Anderson definitely lived the most musical life of everyone in this room, at least I'm fairly sure.